Welcome back. In this tutorial we are going to create the logic for the login. So what we want to do is press in a username, press in a password, and when I'm pressing login it will do several things. First of all, it will change the main body area back to the normal area. So it means that it will hide the login area and it will show the pain area, something like this. Second of all, I need to notify the user that he has been logged in. It means that I need to show somewhere here the username and somewhere here a way to log out, maybe, if he wants. And this is what we are going to do now. So let's open the Visual Studio, and now we are going to add a JavaScript file. Right click, add, and you can select JavaScript file. Let's call it login controller. Okay. Now, when I'm doing something like this, then I created a variable, a global variable that will be accessible throughout all the application. And now, for instance, I'm going to do something like this. Maybe admin. Then everybody will be accessing the username because it's a global variable. In order to make something in JavaScript private, we can put it inside a function. Okay, so now this username is actually accessible only inside the function. If I'm going to call it from here, I won't have it. It won't work because it's not inside the function. So set a self-invoke function, which it's a little bit weird. It looks like this, and everything that is going to be inside this function is going to be private. Now this function is going to run because it's calling itself. So this is the invoke sign. So if I'm going to create a function that is called call me, so how do I invoke this function is by saying this, call me and invoke. It's the same here. We have a function and here we're invoking it. So all the controllers we're going to do are going to be based on this. If you haven't really understand what I have just said, don't worry, just follow along and you will understand later on, because I'm going to explain a little bit more. So first of all, I want to create a global variable that is accessible throughout all the application, and we will call it app login. Okay, and it will be an object. Everything that I want to put visible or global, I'm going to put it over here. Now I'm going to do a self-invoked function, and here I'm going to put all the code I want. So first function is login. Second function is logout. Two functions that I'm going to create. And the login will get username and a password as parameters, and the logout is going to get nothing. So let's go back to the application. Now, if I'm going to enter admin, I want to press login. I want the application to take the username and the password, evaluate them somehow, and then add here the name and display the screen of the panes area. So to do this, we can see the index over here. So we have the pane area over here. We can access this div by this ID. The way we do this is here. We are going to set a variable called pane area, and it will be document dot get element by ID. And here we're going to just put the name or the ID name that we've just set it. Now, of course, it must be as a string because there is no object called pane area. Then when we press the login, we need to tell the pane area style.display equals nothing. When I'm logging out, I want the display become none. That's basically it. This is available, so the app login will have a function called login, and it will be the login. This is the API basically. Okay, so let's the API, and I'll have another one that is logout. App login dot logout equals the logout function. Now I need to add this file to the index. So script as source, and you see the Visual Studio really helps you, and we need to close it. Script, not screen, script. So we've closed it. Now the application have access to the login controller. Let's refresh the page, and it still won't do nothing because we need to connect the button, the login button, to the login function. So let's do this now, and in the input of the login I will add on click. Okay, now I'm going to pass, I have this ID, right? So username equals document dot get element by ID. Login user dot value, what is written, and the password will be the same. User password, not passwords. This is irrelevant. And you know what? Let's just console log the username and the password. Okay. Refresh the page, open the developer tool, and if I'm going to press escape, I'm going to open this interface so I can go to the console. And let's write admin login, and as you can see the screen already changed, and I had the username admin and the password admin, so it works. I get the data, but now I want to add the username to the header, so let's deal with this now. So let's go to here and add another div section. Let's give it an ID of username, header. I'm going to give it position absolute, and I'm going to show you why in a minute. Hello, guest. So this is the default message, and I'm going to have an ID, header, default message, and we will edit it accordingly because it's in the top, as you can see. So let's right click and inspect element. Now I've put it absolute. Well, if it wouldn't be absolute, then it would be relative to his sibling, and it would drop all the image that I put here down by the size. I'm going to show you, see, because it's going to take the line. So I want it to be positioned absolute, so each and every one of them will be separated one from each other, and in this way we could move this div, this container, wherever I want without affecting other elements. So top is going to set how further we want it from the top. I think 85 is nice. And how much we want it from the left. And I think 15 pixels is fine. Let's give it a color as well. Gray. Of course it will be something like this, maybe a little bit darker. Let's create a class from it, and the name will be username header style. Let's take the class that we've just created and put it in the div. And we could also add the position absolute. Refresh. And again, let's refresh with the cache. And it works. Great. So we have the hello guest. So after we make the login, I want to change the guest to the username. So let's take the default username and document get element by ID. The ID is this, and it's going to be style.display equals none. So when we log in now, it should disappear and a different message should appear instead. So let's create it. So here we already have the username. Let's create var logged username equals create element, and it's going to be span element, and this dot inner HTML equals to hello username. And we created this element. Now we need to append it to the parent. So we could take this default parent element, append child, and I'm going to explain in a few seconds what I've just did. This is going to be here. Let's see. And it works. So look, in order to explain, I want you to look at this DOM element. So at first we have the span and the hello guest, which is the default values. But once we put a username, what it's going to do, and this is the fun part with the developer tools, I can go to the sources, and here I have all the files. I can go to the login controller I just created and breakpoint here. So what I've done is when I'm going to press the login, it will enter the function and it will start debugging the code we've just done. So very nice. I'm going to get username. Okay, so I can just hover the variable and I can see its value. Password. Okay, F10 is going to step over. Just, you can see over here as well. So step over to the next function is F10. If I want to step into the function, it's F12. And if I want just to play, it's F8. So now I'm creating an element and I'm putting its inner HTML to hello, to the string, and the username that I've just written over here. So now I have this element that its inner HTML value is hello admin. Now I'm making this display none. I'm making this message display none, but I'm taking this, it still exists, it just displays none right now. Okay, this is displays none. You can see? So we can't see it, but it still exists. So we take the element and I'm referring to its parent element. Who is the parent element? This div. And then I'm saying, okay, I'm now at the parent element. I want to append a new element, append a child to it, which receives an element as argument. And I'm giving this element to be inserted into this parent. So now when I'm doing it, it actually puts this element, it's inside its parent. Okay, and then I'm logging the code, and that's it. It works.